Well, hello and happy 4th of July to everyone, and we have a special 4th this year because the Mets and Yankees start a 3-game series today at Citi Field. Obviously, the first series did not go well for the Mets. They lost 2 out of 3, did not look good in that series. But right now, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of juice going on in this series. Nobody's that excited for it, and both teams are not playing well, and that's the reason. It's kind of a mid-off right now. And not even really mid, a bad. Both teams have been bad coming into this series. Now, the Mets did win their last one. They took 2 out of 3 from the Brewers. The Brewers came in hot. They won 8 of their last 10, and the Mets took care of business in that series. After, in Game 1, it seemed like it was going to be more of the same for the Mets. After getting swept by the Pirates, it looked like it was going to be a brutal series against Milwaukee as well. But then they were able to take the next 2 games. And I think what's happened for the Mets lately is that in this last series is that the luck is going towards the Mets. For the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for the Mets. And in this last series, a couple good things happened for them. Whether it was the ball going off of Mazeroski's glove or the home run that wasn't by Rhys Hopkins where he thought he had a home run, did a little bat flip and stared down the pitcher a little bit. It was really nice to see that idiot, have that moment where he looked stupid. It was great. Hate Rhys Hoskins. He's a terrible guy, and he's one of the most hated players in Major League Baseball. But it was great to see that. But hey, listen, that looked like a home run off the bat. Everyone thought it was gone, and it went foul by literally inches. So that's something positive for the Mets, a sign that the luck is turning. And then that stolen base by Yelich last night, that was called. He was called safe, and it got overturned for him being out. And he looked safe to me. I don't know how they overturned that call. Even if it didn't look safe, it was close enough where you would never see that call overturned, and it was. And listen, I'll take what I can get. It's a good thing for the Mets, so I'm happy it happened. But it's just those little things that are happening that seems like maybe the Mets' luck is turning. But going into this Yankee series, the Mets pitching is decimated. You just had Paul Blackburn go on the injured list with a shoulder impingement. Not a huge loss there. He hasn't been very good for the Mets so far this year, other than that one start against the Dodgers. And then you had Deadnail Nunez, which to me is a bigger deal because Nunez was just kind of coming into his own. He was finding that ability that he had last year before getting hurt, and he gets hurt again. And they called it an elbow sprain. Mendoza said that they're, concerned that he might need Tommy John surgery. So that's a big blow to the bullpen where they're already kind of hurting, already have some guys on the shelf. And now you lose Nunez, who looked like maybe he was becoming your setup guy. And now he's gone for a while at least. Maybe it's not Tommy John surgery, but he's still going to be out a while. Not something you want to see. So listen, the Mets pitching in this series, they definitely are underwhelming. The Yankees definitely have the pitching matchups in this series. In Game 1 today, you have Hagenman going up against Stroman. Now, Stroman for the Yankees, I don't know what to expect out of him. He is only just recently back from being injured. And we know Stroman from being on the Mets. He was better back then, but he still had times where he was just very hittable and easily hittable. I know his velocity's down, and he doesn't have quite the same stuff as he used to. So I'm expecting the Mets offense to be able to hit Stroman. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I don't know which Mets offense shows up in this game, but this is your opportunity. You have to take Game 1 here because it's the only time where the pitching matchup is really even close. You can hit Stroman, and the Mets with Hageman, listen, he's been pretty good this year. He's got a 1.5 ERA. There's not much of a sample size, and he's not the most talented guy in the world, but you never know. He could turn out to be something. Maybe he's not going to give you much length. It's going to be a lot of bullpen used in this game, which is a scary thought because the Mets bullpen has not been very good, other than really the last couple of games. But you're going to have to use some bullpen in this game. If he can give you 4 innings, that's probably all you can expect out of him. Maybe 5 if they push him or if he's just cutting through the order. But really you're expecting 3-4 innings out of Hagenman and really going bullpen game the rest of the day. So the Mets need to come out and score runs because The Yankees are also a team, while they've been struggling lately, they lost their last 4, they got swept by the Blue Jays, fell into second place. The Yankees can still hit, and they still have Aaron Judge, and they still have enough offense where the Yankees will sometimes bludgeon you, especially against bad pitchers. That's where they kind of beef up their stats. They have a lot of home runs this year. They're second in baseball with 131 home runs. You have Aaron Judge, who has 31 of those, and you get a lot of, you don't have a great performance out of their entire lineup, but the entire lineup hits better than the Mets' entire lineup. I think you take the top 4 of the Mets, they're better than the Yankees, right? Even with Aaron Judge, if you take the top 4 of the Mets, I take that top 4 over the Yankees. But the Yankees lineup is a little bit deeper. They have a lot of guys who are power threats and guys who can hit lower down in that order, where the Mets really, after you get past 4 or 5 in the order, you don't really expect much, whether it's Tyrone Taylor or Luis Torrens, guys like that. You don't expect much out of them. Now, could Beatty have a big game? Sure. Could Mauricio have a big game? Yeah, it could happen. But you don't expect much out of that bottom of the order. And so I think you have to win game 1 scoring runs. You're going to have to score runs in this series. And it's going to be hard to do after game 1, because in game 2, you have Frankie Montas for the Mets, who, listen, maybe he was tipping pitches. He said in his first couple starts he thinks he was tipping his pitches. I don't know. He got beat up in his last start. It was a game I couldn't watch, so I couldn't see what was going on. But he did get beat up. I think he gave up 6 runs in 4 innings, or 5 innings maybe. He just was terrible. If he was tipping pitches, and maybe it's something he can fix, maybe we have nothing to worry about here, but I don't have much confidence in Frankie Montas going into his 3rd start of the year. And he's going up against Carlos Rodon, who has been up and down this year and really throughout his whole career, but it's his best year with the Yankees so far. He's got an ERA under 3, and he is obviously talented. And the Mets have faced him before, and if I remember correctly, he's done very well against the Mets in the past. So it's not a matchup that's in our favor, but you never know. Either way, you got to go and hit, because I don't think Frankie Montas is giving up, 1 or 2 runs. He's going to give up some runs. And you're talking about using the bullpen a lot in game 1. You're probably going to have to use them in game 2 as well. It's becoming an issue now for the Mets pitching-wise, because these bullpen guys are completely overworked. They're not getting much length out of their starters, except for last night. David Peterson, great stuff, going 6 2/3. Really good start there by Peterson, getting back on track after 2 shaky starts in a row. But yeah, and then in game 3, the Mets have to face Max Fried, who is one of the leading candidates for AL Cy Young this year. New to the Yankees, obviously, this year. We saw him for years with the Braves. He's a really good pitcher, but he's been hittable lately. In his last start, he gave up 4 runs. He's been a little shaky in his last 3 or 4 starts. I know the start before last one, he gave up nothing, but before then, he had starts where he gave up 3 runs, 4 runs. He's not unhittable lately, or as unhittable lately as he was early in the season. So he's a guy you can hit, but I don't know that the Mets will. Depends on which Mets offense shows up, if they're able to get anything out of the bottom of the order. But it's clear to me that putting Brandon Waddell up against Max Fried, you're at a disadvantage in that game. Waddell's been fine this year. He's been a relief pitcher, but he's got a 2.5 ERA. He hasn't been bad coming out of the bullpen. But again, you're not going to get any length out of him. Are you expecting 3, maybe 4 innings and then a bullpen game? I don't know. It's really tough with the Mets pitching right now, where they're really just trying to tread water until Senga's back, until Manaya's back. They really are just trying to they're just trying to hold it together enough so that they can at least have a chance to win these games. And against the Yankees offense, that's going to be tough to do. Now, are they going to pitch to Aaron Judge? Probably not very often. He's their big bopper in that lineup. You don't want him beating you. You'll let other guys beat you, but they have other guys who can beat you too, whether it's Bellinger or even like a guy like Dominguez, or Volpe's always done well against the Mets, even though he's not having a great season, and probably not as good as Yankee fans and the rest of baseball thought he was going to be. But both teams have issues right now, but the Yankees can hit, and the Mets' issue is their pitching. So I don't know. This is kind of a bad matchup for the Mets here, but I still have faith that they're going to do well, because this is the type of series that can really turn around your season. The Mets, yes, they're going. The needle is starting to point in the right direction after taking 2 out of 3 from the Brewers, who, like I said, were hot coming into it. But you need to take 2 out of 3 in this series to really start to feel good. After this game, I think you have 6 games until the All-Star break, and this is where it kind of has to start. You have to start pointing that needle in the right direction. And taking 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, even though the Yankees have been struggling, would still be a huge relief. You'd tie up the season series with them. It would just be a nice thing to have happen. And honestly, it could turn the Yankee season around too. Because in these high-pressure situations where you want to win, it's a rival. It might not be the biggest rivalry. The Yankees have a bigger rivalry with the Red Sox. The Mets have a bigger rivalry with the Phillies and the Braves. But it's still an in-city rival that you want to beat. And I think baseball is better when both of these teams are good. Listen, I'm not a Yankee hater. I like to beat them because it's fun. But at the end of the day, I think baseball wants both of these teams to be good and for this to be competitive and this to be a good series. I don't know that we're going to get that with both teams kind of struggling, but we'll see what happens. Before I get into the keys to the series for the Mets, if you're still here, you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Going into the keys, what I think the Mets have to do to win this series. First off, they have to hit. And that's an obvious thing, right? You have to score runs to win games. But I mean, Nimmo's been hot. Lindor's starting to look better. Alonso's gotten a couple big hits. Soto was player of the month for June. So the top of the order is hitting right now. Newly with Lindor and even Alonso starting to get a couple hits. But we need some more production from the bottom of the lineup. And it's been the issue all year long. They've gotten nothing from the bottom of their lineup, whether it's Tyrone Taylor, Luis Torrens, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, all those guys. Even Mark Vientos, who's supposed to be a middle-of-the-order hitter, he got a hit last night, hit a ball harder than we've seen him hit in a long time for a single, but at the end of the day, maybe it gets him going, maybe it was just a better swing than we've seen in a long time. The Mets have to get some production from the bottom of the order. I'm not expecting them to go 3 for 4 with 2 home runs, but drive in a run from time to time. Maybe hit a home run. Maybe move a runner along. Maybe just not have bad at-bats. And it's been bad at-bats by the bottom of the order and sometimes at the top. I think hitting is contagious, but also not hitting is contagious. And we've seen that out of the bottom of the order this year. So they need to get some big hits from the bottom of the order. The top can't just win every game for you. They can win you some games. They can carry the team, but after a while, you need to start having the rest of your lineup hit as well. So getting some offense from the bottom of the lineup is very important in this series, especially going up against guys like Rodon and Fried, who you're probably not going to score that many runs against. If you got a guy on third with 1 out, Luis Torrens has to be able to get that guy in on a sac fly. Or if you got runners on first and second with nobody out, maybe Taylor can drop down a bunt and get the guys to second and third. We just need something out of the bottom of the lineup, and we just haven't gotten it all year. So that's going to be a key for them in this series. If you're going to beat the Yankees, you're going to need to score runs. The second thing is the Mets bullpen needs to hold up, and I think that's a big question mark because you're not, like I said, you're not going to get a lot of innings out of the guys you have starting these games. Hagenman, Waddell, even Montas. Yes, Montas can give you innings if need be, but it's only his 3rd start of the year. So he's not going to throw 110 pitches. So if he can give you 5 or 6 maybe innings of 3-run ball, that's great. That's all I would expect out of Montas in this game. But Hagenman and Waddell aren't going to give you much length. 3, 4, maybe 5 innings at the most. So your bullpen is going to be worked, and I expect guys to be coming in and out throughout this series after game 1. Honestly, what's kind of crazy to me is that they're not going to call up Sproat or McClain to make one of these starts. I know McClain pitched last night, so there's no way he's making the start, and he looked great. He went 5 innings, gave up, only gave up 1 run and had 10 strikeouts. I'm not saying he's a savior. I'm not saying he's gonna go out there and get a shutout for the Mets. But why wouldn't you give a guy like that the chance in this series? Do you want to go and put him up against the Yankees and facing Aaron Judge? I don't know, but he's better than Hagenman. He's better than Waddell. He's better than Montas probably. So I don't understand not going that route. There was a report yesterday that Sproat was in contention to be the starter for Sunday, but it looks like that's not happening at this point. Now, if they have to go out and use Waddell in game one, say Hageman gives you an inning and just gets blown up and you have to eat some innings and maybe you go Waddell in that game to just give you 3 or 4 innings in the middle of that game, then maybe that becomes a thing. Maybe Sproat then gets the call up and gets the start on Sunday. But at this point, it looks unlikely that that's going to happen. And David Stearns even said he's not interested in calling up, or he wouldn't want to call up a prospect just to make one start because he wouldn't want, it's just not something he wants to do. He would only do that if it was for a prolonged period of time. I don't know. It could be a prolonged period of time. The Mets pitching has been so bad lately that if Sproat comes up and pitches a gem, then he replaces someone else in the rotation. Blackburn, they say, is only going to be out for a couple of weeks. Well, we don't care if he's back in the rotation. Why do we need to worry about him replacing someone in the rotation when all of these guys have been terrible? Other than Clay Holmes and Peterson at this point, they've all been pretty bad. So I don't understand the reluctance to bring these guys up, especially because they're not that young. They're 23, 24 years old. If they were 19 years old, I understand it. But these are guys who, while Sproat has not performed in AAA so far, he's been better lately, and he's your number one pitching prospect, although he's probably getting passed by guys like McLean and Tong. But Sproat is a guy who is pretty much ready to come up. McLean has been great in AAA since being called up. One of these guys could have made one of these starts, and it's better than what they have. So don't love it. Don't love the reluctance of Stearns to call these guys up. It's one thing that I have an issue with him. He's almost patient to a fault. He's a little bit too patient, where you kind of need a spark, and calling one of those guys up maybe could provide that spark, and maybe could give you your next starting pitcher, a guy who never leaves the rotation. I don't understand the reluctance, but it is what it is, and it seems like it's just not going to happen. So we're going with these guys. And that means that the bullpen's going to be overworked in this series. Do we love it? No, but it is what it is at this point. The Mets don't really have other options that they're willing to use. So the way the bullpen is able to kind of keep these games close, that's gonna be the main difference in this series. I don't expect the bullpen to be spectacular, other than guys like Diaz, even Stanek, who has looked really good lately, or Buto. I expect them to be good, but those middle guys, I don't know what to expect out of them, but they need to keep these games close because you're going to need them to eat innings because you have lower-level pitchers going in these games. So overall, those are the two biggest keys for me. The bottom of the order needs to hit, and your bullpen kind of bulk guys need to do their job and keep the game close. And I think if they do that, the Mets can win this series, and that's the hope for me. With both of these teams struggling right now, it's kind of hard for a lot of people to get juiced up, but it's still Mets Yankees. It still means something, and I think people will still be watching. Anyway, that's really all I got. Hopefully we get a Mets win in this series and take bragging rights back a little bit. But if not, it is what it is. We move on. But that's all I got. So, enjoy your 4th of July. And until next time, let's go Mets.